And we're on.
All right, hello everybody. We have a surprise host with me. It's Peter, Vivian's husband. Vivian is feeling a little under the weather today. No big thing, but she's on the mend. So today we have the distinct pleasure of getting Peter up in the front here, and we can ask him all types of stuff, as well as you can ask me anything, ranging from the Ponte, the UMO, Project Serpo, the QFS, whatever you need to talk about. Any word question is what we're here for. So let's take it away and let's see who else we got here. I got a bunch of questions that was sent to me, and I will get to them. But mostly they are from for Project Serpo. But Peter, what would you like to start off with yourself? Because I got questions for you, my man.
Oh, I'm open to whatever you want to talk about. Let's see here. I did do this so that we can actually do it for everybody if they're interested. I created a coupon code for just today, and it'll actually be till the end of January for next year. It's Star Connection, and it's 10% off for everybody that would want to at the Energy as a Service store.
Perfect.
So I put that up there so you guys can, if you're interested in that, feel free. Um, One of the things we just posted up on the store was actually a post-traumatic stress healing pendant, and it has amazing properties. We can talk more and more about this. What was interesting is all the different crystals. I didn't list the name of the crystals, but I listed the attributes of all the crystals in it. Um, the crystals that are there for the healing, the release, the working on dream state, reinforcing yourself, your own personality, allowing the healing to come through without any impact. And the two tensor rings that are actually a part of it, which actually are grounding and healing. So it's actually pretty cool.
Interesting. Hey, when they make these stones, in the act of cutting the stone, does it lose any of its properties? Like if you have like one giant ass stone for healing, and you make like 20 of them, is it still the power of the one giant stone, or is it 20% less of the power?
From how I understand it, the stones never lose their attribute. I just think it's like the size of the stone actually gives you its energy, its power.
Right.
So if you have a piece of a larger crystal, it's only going to be a percentage of that energy coming off of it. It will still have that energy though.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what's what I do with the tensor technology, with the tensor rings part of the pendants, um, is the crystals that are actually in the tensor field are actually the energy of those crystals are amplified. So it's like when you have the small piece of a crystal, it actually amplifies each individual crystal,
Right.
above and beyond what it's capable of.
Is that the idea of like winding all these crystals with like a copper or whatever?
Yes, yes. Yeah, I'll put it up so you can actually. I have a picture of the. That's the that's the actual post traumatic stress pendant. It has the two tensor rings, and that has it's got 18 crystals in it. So it
That's
actually
cool.
does. Yeah, it does shielding and then healing and releasing and all kinds of fun stuff in there. But yeah, it's all the crystals that are inside of that tensor ring. It's like when you're blowing soap bubbles. You have that plastic ring, and the soap is just hanging in there. So if you take that analogy of the soap film and these tensor rings, the tensor energy is actually suspended in that ring, just like a soap film.
Mm-hmm.
And as that energy intersects each and one of those crystals, it actually amplifies it and then projects it out. So it's extremely powerful for what they are. I mean, the size of the crystal is really small, but it'd be like carrying around a pound of, let's just say morganite or tanzanite. Have to carry a very large crystal to be able to equate that kind of energy coming off of the pendant.
Is there a positive and negative to that piece? Like a
Actually, no.
projection, like a projection out, projection in?
Actually, no. That was actually discovered by Slim Sperling in the early '90s. It's the original discovery was John Archibald Wheeler in 1957, and he discovered it that it created an energy ring, that energy field, and it had a positive side and a negative side, but
Hmm.
it was only a single ring. And when it was actually closed off, it created an energy field, but only one side. It would project positive side out one, and then negative out the other side. And Slim Sperling also found that when he actually started working with it, and then he actually did the same wire folded over and then twisted clockwise, and then brazed the wires back onto themselves, and that created a dual positive energy field.
Interesting. Yeah, because I was wondering if you got the crystals that are in there, and there's the positive and negative. It Are you aligning all the crystals to be positive, or are they, positive, negative, positive, negative, all inside there?
The crystals are what they are, and the tensor energy, because of the orientation of the tensor ring itself, it only projects a positive energy on the output on both sides.
Okay.
So
Do
it's
you?
actually interesting. When you're wearing it, it actually projects into your heart chakra, and if you're when the other side of it's projecting out from you.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I was touching those 10 strings, I was getting a shock. So I know that stuff works.
Oh,
It's just a knowledge that I have no idea of. It's interesting.
yeah. No, it's when I first started reading up on Slim Sperling, read his books, followed through some of his. He actually has quite a few of his videos from back when he was alive, back in early 2000s. And he describes how the tensor rings work and the energy of them, and what he did with the the tensor rings he was working with. He was working with the sacred, uh, and I believe what was the other one, the lost cubit, which was the heart healing one, primarily. And then they came up with the what was it? It was more of a overall health tensor ring that he was using, and it was actually rather interesting. When it was actually a harmonic of those two. So
Hmm.
one was heart, and one was energy field, and one was physical body. And he found one that was in the middle of that, and he used all three of those different tensor rings.
Is that power of that tensoring, is that magnetic?
Not sure if it's magnetic or not. I know the tensor rings, as far as the pendants are concerned,
Hmm.
neutralize and have been tested multiple times to neutralize electromagnetics. So if you're wearing a pendant, the electromagnetics are no longer there. Um, One of our friends actually did muscle testing on all of his EOMF tools and was playing with them, and then he actually found out that the pendant was above 95% effective at releasing any and all negative energies entering your field. So it basically protected you electromagnetically. Um, we had a friend of ours who was wearing it. I think she was at a MUFON conference or something like that, and they have all their electronic gizmos detect for electromagnetics.
Hmm.
And basically, they came up to this individual who's wearing an Archangel Michael pendant and put the scanner up to it, and there was nothing, zero electromagnetic energy inside of her field. Pull
Wow.
outside of her field, you could feel the electromagnetics from the cell phones, Wi-Fi, all that goes in her field's gone.
Does the thickness of the copper wire make a difference?
Yes. Um, I've done some pretty hefty pendants for myself, just playing around and experimenting. And the heavier the wire, the more power it can be transmitted. It's just like the
Just like
bigger the wire, the
amperage.
more. Yeah, it's just like that kind of understanding of how we, like you know, power, voltage, amperage, that kind of stuff.
Mhm. Oh, wow.
If you do smaller tensor rings, and let's see here, yeah, so a smaller tensor ring like this one here, that would be, it's very small, right? Here, move that up. That one is actually pretty small, and that one is actually a throat chakra. Um, that
But it's
one,
blue. But it's
but
blue
it's
though, right?
yeah, no, I painted it blue to like because the smaller ones are really hard to tell the difference in the frequency, so I paint them so I know which ones they are.
Oh, okay, okay,
It's just for me for self-identification.
okay.
But like this ring here is, if you look at it, is a little bit bigger on the copper than it is on a pendant, right? So to actually make it more powerful, but it also makes it heavier.
And that black, and you it's always black, but you just sand it to make a look like you can see the detail, the windings.
No, actually, they're actually all they're pretty much all copper, and then I antique the copper to give it the black patina,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there, as we machine them down, the actual copper comes out.
Wow, that's cool as hell. How long does it take to make one of those?
Hours and hours, hours, hours
Wow.
over many days. It's you start from just bare copper wire. Then you do all the copper work, fold it over, twist it. Once it's twisted, then you can cut it to length. Once it's cut to length, you have to actually soften the copper so that you can actually work it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Once it's soft enough, then you can actually braise it onto itself. And then once that's done, you actually put the little loops on it so for you can hang stuff on it. Hang it from a lanyard. Uh, and then from there, it's actually you use a cleaner on the copper to clean it up, uh, clean it with water, and then antique it, and then clean it with water, and
Okay,
that's
now
just the copper side, and that's
uh,
just copper.
in my house, there's always a lot of crazy crap happening. I mean, I every day there's something weird happens here, unusually weird. When in the act of making your stuff, because you're dealing with all those energies, all that stuff is there's a lot of energy obviously in the room making all that stuff. Do you see anything weird like that, like orbs flying around or weird stuff?
I don't see them, but Viv, when she takes out her camera and she starts clicking pictures around, she'll
Yeah,
get orbs everywhere.
yeah. I kind of think that they would just be all around that energy field.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah, and the cats. You can see that we have the larger tensor rings on the image behind me, on the pyramid. So the cats just love hanging out in the pyramid.
hmm yeah.
They'll just nap out there for hours. Then one will leave and another one will jump in.
Hmm. We better check the chat, man, because I think I kind of lost my way here.
Viv is actually talking in chat. Looks like,
Is she cool?
yeah.
Okay. I think there was one question. I'm looking for about OFC. Who was that? Alita. I was curious if Umo will be involved with the OFC. Well, it all depends on what you call OFC. Um, we know that we have been interacted since 1934 with different beings, and the Umo came in the 50s. So I don't know what you mean by OFC. I mean, is it you know, it means different things to different people. I do know that the non-interference was lifted a couple years ago, or last year. This time I think it was maybe, and so you'll be seeing more and more legit craft flying around. And I think the abductions have stopped, in my opinion. But all depends. But the UMO have been here. They've been back and forth. They've been here. It all depends on how the isodynamics of the space is concerned. Is how they get here. They do have people here in their different bases. So they're here. I actually got current evidence of two crafts that buzzed by the ISS with the with the UMO markings on the on the bottom. So um, when I get that video cleaned up and cleared up, when we probably go out to Mount Shasta, I think I might show that. But it's very clear that it's a UMO craft. You can't deny that little emblem, because I really seriously doubted, like, who puts an emblem on the bottom of their craft. I mean, really. And I researched everything I could find about other crafts. They don't do that. But in this particular case, the UMO do that. There's been a number of sightings in Spain, France, with pilots that see this craft with emblem on the bottom. I'm like, that just can't be. But and now I have it. So it's interesting. And I know that the Umo's been getting a bad rap and stuff over the years, but that's just a really bad disinformation from Spain. You know, they don't do it as good as we do it here. So it was just a bad attempt at disproving them. Because the Umo, they're very smart, but they know that, we're not ready yet, and they come back, see if we're ready, leave, they come back, see if we're ready, and we're ready. Now we're ready. So to answer that question, it all depends on what you call OFC. They're not just going to land and say, hey, we're here, because they already did that. And yes, our government knows about them. And yes, our government did film them. We also have the type of camera that they use, the type of film that they used. We also know what cruiser they were on in the ocean, and it was in 1966. So yeah. So I hope that answers your question.
Do you have an image of their emblem?
Oh yeah, yeah. Let me
Rose is asking, what is their emblem?
hang on 1 second. Oh, I can show you. Yeah. There we go. I've been researching Umo since the mid '80s, so there's not a whole lot I do not know about them. That's the Umo emblem. It's something like this too. Okay. This is a mock-up I made of their craft. Okay. This is what the inside would look like. Similar. I just didn't do the inside part. Okay. But you can see the bottom. Just like that.
Very cool.
Yeah. So yeah. So that's what an Umo emblem looks like.
Cool.
What else we got? Hey, when you ship those pendants,
Yeah.
how do you ship those rings? If somebody
Like the
wants to
big.
buy like a tensor ring, a big one for like underneath their bed or something.
Yeah. I ship them in basically it's a collapsed box. So yeah, if you have a regular box, it's about this big. When you flatten it out, it's actually
Mm-hmm.
really wide. So I ship out in those boxes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I need to get more of those actually made up and then get them posted on the website. It's just been a while since I've actually made a few of those.
Mm-hmm. The Umo or Galactic Star Nation, yeah, they are very close to us. They're 3D, just like we are. A little bit taller forehead. The skin is slightly orangey-ish, but they don't eat the same things we do, obviously. But and they don't really talk that much because they are more of a telepathic nation. But I do have audio of them talking on the phone that they were trying to talk. So, and they actually did that. They get this little surgery done in their throat so that they can make similar noises to us. So, what else we got?
Vivian is asking, what are our thoughts on 2023?
He's hopefully be better than 2022.
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll probably get better. Um, there's so much political crap and polarizing going around. I guess as soon as that gets all figured out and straightened out, we'd be better.
Yeah.
But as far as I think everybody's ready. I think there's a lot more people that are consciously aware now more than anything, and it's not of a shock as it was, say, like 10 years ago or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the people are being exposed for being, you know, liars and all that crap going around. So you got to have the evidence. You know, you just can't. You know, we need to see evidence, at least, you know, from three different sources, or at least three. But we got to do a due diligence. Just don't believe everybody.
Yeah, I have a feeling the first 2 months of 2023 are going to be more of like airing all the dirty laundry with evidence.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have evidence, and it has to be explained in a way that the people understand it. You just can't come out with these rogue ass explanations and, you know, well, how does it work? I don't know. It was just told to me that way. I mean, no.
Yeah,
Okay, it's told you that way. Big deal. So what? How does it help me? You know,
yeah.
and
But
that's why I try to understand everything I can about the UMO, because they're pretty explicit, and that they're a high level uh, technology, but um, they're pretty specific, and they have to dummy down on a lot of their explanations in order for us to get it. So,
yeah, that's because a lot of us have been put into
well,
this thought process box.
well,
That, yeah,
we're we were taught the wrong way to think, man. We don't.
exactly.
They don't use Aristotle logic. They use tetravalent logic. You know, but we don't know any different. You know, so we try to
Right.
understand it through our logic, and we're just like, what? You know, but once you understand tetravalent logic, it's like, oh man, I get it. Now I know what they're trying to say.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
the base 10 doesn't work in space. And you have to use the base 12. And that's why when we go out there, we're going to be over here. We're supposed to be here. We're here because it's different. But we'll
Not
find out,
surprising.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
They
All
said we'll
right.
find out.
Let's see. Gabby was asking, can anyone tell me what star family would travel in a big, huge, bright blue light ball UFO? She had encountered one approximately 21 years ago, and not able to hasn't been able to figure it out.
Well, you know, this big blue light ball, it could be blue, could be yellow, whatever, orange. That's just the field that's around it. And that's just the light that she can perceive, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there could be, you know, we have to understand too that a lot of these other entities are not in the 3D like we are. You know, they're in different dimensions, and they can come in here, but we don't see them with, you know, two eyes, nose, mouth, two arms. You know, it doesn't work that way. You know, there's different types of life that are flourishing and traveling. So we just have to understand that we ain't the only ones out there. We're just a little tiny minuscule. This template for this type of environment is perfect. So it probably was something, probably another race of sorts, but I don't think it was people.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. Carolina's asking if she could wear two or three different pendants
Oh,
altogether.
good
Is it
question.
possible? Is it possible to receive all the benefits? Um,
Or maybe
let's
does
see.
one know out the other one too?
No, they don't. They actually amplify. Um, I was wearing the big silver Archangel Michael pendant that I made for myself, and I was wearing that underneath, and I was wearing the the post traumatic healing pendant on top, and it just completely stabilized me when we were going through our to the last conference we were at. It was actually pretty powerful. So they definitely do help each other.
You know, if I was Vivian, I'd be putting a bunch of them damn rings on her neck right now to help her out. Be walking around. Ugh.
Yep, that's the problem. They get too heavy for her
Yeah.
because they do. It's the big one is pretty heavy. The silver one's pretty heavy.
I put her inside that pyramid. Don't come out till you're healthy.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Yes. The okay. So Emmer, it's like yeah, Gabby, inspiring, investing in pendants, amplify the good energies and healing around the beautiful children I work with. Yes. Um, the pendants actually are pretty powerful in their own light. So what'll happen is when you're wearing one, it actually attaches to your energy field to the point where it will actually protect your field, protect your energy from others' energies, and also it'll start. Once you actually get your energy field balanced, which it'll actually do over time, it'll actually start radiating more of a positive energy, especially to the kids around you, and they'll notice. Believe me, they'll notice.
Okay, I got another question for you. I know that you can charge crystals in the moonlight and the sun and all that stuff.
Yep.
Do your pendants need to get charged at all?
No, no. The so one of the interesting things I learned about the tensor rings themselves, and this was before I started making pendants, is the big ones, like the one on the pyramid behind me. You can actually run that over a person, and you can actually the ring will actually bounce when it hits energetic obstacles in your field, so you can
Oh, that's
feel it.
cool.
So you just go all the way down, head to toe, and the ring will start bouncing, and you go back over it and over it and over it. You can go back over a few more times, and you'll notice the ring bounces less and less as you actually have the tensor field itself, the one in the middle of the ring, go over those spots. It actually releases the energy from those spots. Um, what was also found is when you actually, like, if you're taking a object and put it through that tensor field, it will actually clear the energy that that object has that you actually put through that tensor field. So you can, like, if you have a pillow, you want to clear the energy. Somebody was on there, was sitting on it or sitting next to it, that wasn't very nice. Yeah, you just put the pillow through a tensor ring and it clears the field, clears the energy of it.
Remember
So,
that movie Stargate
yep,
with James Spader? And they
yep,
stepped inside that one unit and the rings went toot, 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 and
yep,
then they were gone.
yes.
Okay. That just, that reminds me of that.
Yes, there's another person out there that actually created what he would call an ascension chamber, and it was set up very similar to the Stargate multiple stacks that they were using for their transport. And he called it his ascension chamber, basically because you're sitting in or standing in a column of energy. Each individual tensor ring
Hmm.
generates a column of light or energy. So you put all these different stacks of rings on it, and you basically get in that, and they drop all the rings around you, and they stop at one here, and one stops here, all the way down. And you end up standing in this column of energy. Um, and it
Oh, we
actually,
no,
yeah.
we got to get together because I got some ideas now. We can make something.
Oh, absolutely. Um,
That's interesting.
so to finish answering your question, with the tensor ring being able to negate any negative energies in its field, you can actually just put, when the crystals are inside of it,
Hmm.
it's self-clearing. Now, what you need to actually clear for yourself in a pendant form is clear the intentions on them, because you can put your personal intentions on each one of them.
Right. Yeah.
Make me invisible to anybody that do me harm. We've
Hmm.
used that before, and it works like a charm.
Cool. Yeah. AUAs ask us anything.
Yeah. Let's see here.
We've been doing that for a couple of years now, and it's actually been pretty. These are good ones.
Very cool.
What type of logic? It's a tetravalent logic. It's a different, like we know Aristotle logic, 1 + 1 = 2. Okay, but
Yep.
tetravalent logic is slightly more than just 1 + 1 = 2. It could equal 3 as well because you're dealing with three objects. That type of thinking. It isn't just two-dimensional.
Yeah, it's a full three-dimensional logic. Yeah.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. When you look at the tensor rings, you have to look at them as a torus generator.
Hmm.
So yes, it's a flat ring, but it's actually generating three-dimensional energy field.
That's cool. Hopefully, you guys don't get bothered with lightning strikes at your house.
Not here. No, oh, we've been good.
Cool.
What is the AUA?
Yeah, ask us anything.
Oh, okay. Where's Viv? Viv is getting over a little bit of a bug. She got basically she got the flu last weekend, and she's still recovering from it. She's just very tired. She's on the mend though. She's definitely
Yep,
getting
yep.
better.
She's on the mend. She's all good.
Yep. She's in chat too, if she can.
Yeah, there's another good one
Um,
for you.
which one?
What is your process for selecting the stones?
So what I do is for crystals that are coming through. Originally, the Archangel Metatron anklets was a channeled message to help me understand the interaction of those five crystals that are in the anklets and the interaction with a tensor ring and a copper mesh over it. And they created basically they closed down your torus field. It turns an oval torus field into a shield. And that was a transmitted message. And it's a combination of a tensor ring with five crystals and a copper mesh to cover those crystals can do all that. And I was like, okay, that's really interesting. So we started moving around and doing utilizing those crystals in pendant form. Instead of actually closing down your torus field, it actually creates like an energy field just above your emotional energy field. So you're still energetically protected, especially in the emotional. So you're less prone to emotional manipulation. Um, and then from there, as far as the different crystals and stuff like that, it was um, I started going over and reviewing different crystals and the attributes that they have. And I'd be looking at them like, oh, that one's nice, that one's nice. And it's like, oh, that one's interesting. And then I would actually add it to a pendant and see what would happen. When we first started doing pendants, we had a whole bunch of different configurations that were interesting in their energy. Um, but we ended up baselining a few of them to what we have on the site now. Um, and as far as like the post traumatic stress healing one, I just went out and I just started searching for crystals that would actually enable the individual to raise their own self confidence. So you look for crystals doing this. You look for crystals that actually purge negativity um, and cause a more stable environment in your energy field. Looking for crystals that help release emotional baggage. You look for crystals that are based on the attributes you're trying to work towards. And then from there, I would actually go through it and actually pick and choose the ones that actually resonated with me, and for what the goal of the pendant would be. So that's how the post traumatic stress one came about
That's
with the
cool.
different crystals. Yeah, it's not just a blind throw them in and try it. It's just like it's doing the homework on it, and after doing all that, you have a list of all these crystals. I think it was like a list of like 40 or so crystals that have all these attributes, but then you have to actually go in there and look at them. And I brought it down to about 10 crystals on top of the Archangel Michael crystal set, which is the five shielding crystals, on top of the turquoise, which is calming, selenite, which is clearing your energy field, and heart healing green mica. So you have the 10 crystals there to work on the post traumatic and the stresses, the traumas, and all this stuff to release.
How many do you work on at a time? Is like you work on like a specific bunch, or can you work on multiple different ones?
Well, they go in batches. So I'll do a bunch of copper work, and I'll get a bunch of copper together, and that's when those are done. At that point, I'll set up the copper in holders so that we can actually put the crystals in there.
Hmm.
And then basically we'll sit down for hours and put down the crystals in all the different pendants. Um, and then once that's done, we do the glow powder in every single one of them. And once the glow powder is in all of them, then we do the resin, and then we have to wait for the resin to get most of actually get the bubbles out of it, and
Hmm.
then we pour. And then once they're poured, 24 hours later, then we can actually start working with the pendants again.
Man, that's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, and
It's,
that's
I mean, it's a lot of movement. You know, there's a lot of moving parts to make one.
I haven't even added up how many steps there is to it, but there's a lot.
That's great stuff. That's good stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Get rid of that.
Meditation is intuitive. Yes, it comes in a meditation, intuitive. On top of yeah, when I'm selecting stones for Vivian's question there, but it actually does. I'm doing my homework with the crystals too, and it's just you have to since there are different people doing the metaphysical attributes for individual crystals, you have to look at multiple sources. So doing your homework on a crystal is not as easy as it sounds. You have to go. It's like go to 4 or 5 different websites and look at the books, and once you understand what the crystal is, and you have to use your own intuition. For me, I'm using my own intuition on that one, and finding okay, well, I find that this individual this or this book actually gives a better attribute of my understanding how the crystal feels, and then I'll use that crystal, or put it in there or do whatever I need to do with it. So I hope that answers that question, Vivian. So interesting. We have a friend of ours who has a 11-year-old, and he actually got a Archangel Michael pendant. So he's only 11, um, going through new school and all this other stuff. So he's typical kid going through school. What he found was is that there are some days when he was wearing the pendant, it didn't help him at all. And then some days he'll actually put it on and he'll feel it completely. And what I got from the understanding of what was going on with him is there are days where he is more self confident in his own person and in his own being, where the pendant is not going to help him. It's there and it can help him if he chooses to ask it to, but it's not going to be there in force because he's actually doing his own protection, his own energies there. Um, and then there are days that where he's actually not as fully empowered, and the pendant kicks in, and then it'll actually help protect him. Okay. As far as crystals demanifesting and manifesting, I'm not sure. That one, I've never heard that one before. Um, I have a feeling that it's like Morganite is like what is it, angelic realm or second reality heartstone, similar to rose quartz, but not quite the same. It's actually more powerful. So I have a feeling it's actually going to be what crystals are more meaningful for you and your resonance. Um, Actually, it was really interesting. I can't remember where I read this, but it was an interesting concept, and it was. And Jeff, you might understand this one as it's pretty interesting. Is somebody in the third dimension can explain the word, let's say, man, and every single person in the room will describe that word in a different way. So not the definition of the word is fluid.
Mm-hmm.
Unless somebody pulls out a dictionary and starts reading it from the dictionary, and that's what somebody else's definition of it was. So using that understanding, it's like when I'm trying to explain something, or when Vivian really goes out and starts talking about energy and the way things are in her understanding and her perception, being a very high vibration, not everybody will understand the words because the definition on her vibrational level, her being, the energy of her being and the projection of her voice is at a different level than other people. So it's interesting when you actually start talking about with this crystal demanifesting. And I think it's more of an understanding of what that crystal means at that particular vibration for you, similar to your state of being can understand a certain logical concept. I hope that helped a little bit.
Yeah, actually, I like that answer. That was good.
Oh, I'm glad you like the pendant, Gabby. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with Suspicious Observer, Ben Davidson. He has a Archangel Michael pendant, and he wears it every day. And they were asking about it in one of his. He does the space weather in the morning, and then he does Q&As in the afternoon. And the Q&A, you can actually see him wearing the pendant. And when he first started wearing it, people asked him about it. And he goes, I put it on, I feel it. I take it off, I feel it. I can definitely tell the difference when I'm wearing this pendant. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, so Simon is curious. Jeff, can you give us an update on what you are involved in at the moment, and what are your plans for 2023?
Well, at the moment, I am heavily researching the QFS, the quantum financial system.
Mm.
Yeah, I got a pretty good understanding of how it all works. And there's a couple of papers on academia.edu. There's one that I wrote, and there's one that friends of mine done, and they gave me permission to post it. So um, it is interesting. I heard many different stories about it, this entity of sorts, and I asked the Ponte about it, and they sent me to Tilcom, and I asked Tilcom about it, and he put me in his room, just me and him, and all of a sudden Tilcom gets really large. He's like towering over me. He goes, they know about this entity. It is beyond them. It's very old, and nothing for us to fear. It's just that they don't use it, but we need it here. And it's from what I understand from Tilcom is that this entity of sorts is not like a god, but it's an overseer, almost like a head nurse on a floor, and she's in charge of all these babies, right? And every baby is a universe,
Mm.
and she has to maintain all these babies, and she knows everything what's going on with these babies all the time. That's what this thing is. It's very intelligent. Um, so far, I that's all I have with it. I'm still investigating it more, but I find it totally fascinating how this is coming about. So now that's where I've been putting my energies the past 6 to 8 months, with the help of the Ponte. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. But check out those papers and it'll give you some understanding of I mean, it's all happening now. The gold standard, you can't stop it, obviously. The fiat dollar, the whole ball of wax. So um, it's uh, it's unfolding in front of our eyes, and try to get in front of it the best way I can. So that's what's happening with me at the moment. The Umo is
Very
still
cool.
out there, but not as I have. I haven't been with them as much as I have with trying to get this QFS down pat, and it's kind of leading me, which is unconfirmed yet. But I don't have too much. I don't have it yet, but it's kind of leading me towards Antarctica. So there is something there that they don't want nobody to know about. And I think, from what I could get, is that they discovered this thing back in the mid 70s and didn't know what to do with it. And it all started from that point. So
Ah,
stay tuned. But
very
I'm
cool.
digging for it. I will find it. You know me. I mean, once I get my hooks in something, I ain't leaving till I know. So
That's good because we need that decentralized financial system.
yeah, I think there's more to it than that, but you know, I'll get it. I'll definitely get it. So Hope that answers your question, Simon.
All right. So Yvonne basically came out and basically said she saw somebody on a Netflix show, Dance Monsters, wearing one of my pendants. Very
Really?
cool.
That's cool.
Very cool. Thank you, Yvonne.
Dance monsters.
Yeah. Can I explain what a tensor ring is? Okay. Let me switch camera real quick here. Okay. So a tensor ring is basically these. So it's a single piece of wire and it's folded over lengthwise. Hold the two pieces on the other end, fold it over a little bit at the end, and then twist it until it's actually something in something like this. Once it's twisted, you cut it to a specific length, depending on what frequency you want to get out of the tensor ring. And right now, I think it's about 10 or 11 different ring frequencies. And I have about four that I still need to experiment with that came to me last year. And what happens is you take the wires, so they're two separate wires, but if you mark them and then braze it back onto itself, each wire onto itself, it creates a energy field in both directions. With that happening, it actually, and with twisting in a positive form, clockwise, which creates a positive field, you end up with a positive energy field on both sides. Now, if you go back in history, when Indians would create their meditation huts, their smoke huts and stuff like that, they would actually, they knew that a tree would have a negative and a positive side. So one side would be positive, one side would be negative, and they would actually, when they were taking the pieces of tree, they would actually line them up. So positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. It would create a current in the actual organic material that creates that hut. So this is just, I mean, this is just an understanding pushed a little bit further into metals. Uh, but that is the basis of this here, is as far as the tensor ring is concerned. It's just a copper winding cut to specific lengths, and then from there it's brazed onto itself. And depending on what length it is, it depends on what frequency. So the green one is the lost cubit, which is the heart chakra, higher heart, emotional field, and etheric body. The blue
Um,
one, yeah.
good.
Okay, let me finish with the blue one. The blue one is actually the Solomon's cubit, and that one is the description for that one is changing the color of sound. And we've utilized that one for tuning crystal bowls and brass bowls and anything that generates sound. Um, so you basically have a bigger one and you put it around the crystal bowl, and it's like plugging a bowl into like an amplifier. So it makes the crystal bowl louder, it
Hmm.
makes it resonate longer, and it changes its sound. It does change its sound. Um, and I experienced this with a lady who was doing sound baths, and she had 14 crystal bowls, the main chakras, and then the higher chakras for each. And then I gave her four of the tensor rings to play with around them, and she did. She texted me back 2 days later and said, "Can I have 10 more?"
Huh.
Because it was actually changing the way the bowls actually performed. So if when you're doing a sound bath, you spool up one bowl, and then you can let that one resonate for a while and move on to another one. Originally, the bowl would actually spool down, and the resonance would just start to degrade. It would get quieter and quieter and quieter. Um, with the tensor ring on it, it would stay loud for longer, and it would stay spun up longer. So it was actually really interesting. So those are the two tensor rings we have up here, and there are more.
When you go to braze it together, do you braze the same wire, or can you cross braze to the
I
different
do
wire?
I do cross braze, so I braze the entire section. But what I'll do is I'll actually put the wires basically connecting to each other,
Mm-hmm.
and then braze the entire junction.
Okay. That kind of like locks the frequency right in there then.
Yeah, it locks them in.
Is there a specific winding technique you use? Is like a tighter winding better than one is like loose?
What I found on the tighter windings, especially when it came to the bigger rings, is it. So if you look at a moving torus field, it kind of spins and it creates a um, what do you want to call it? So the wave actually increases in height and it spins at the same time. It's a three-dimensional wave.
Yeah, it's a vortex.
Right. So you have the vortex energy there. That's the word I was looking for. So when you like with these ones here, that resonance, that vortex wave generation is fairly stable and it's not too much.
Nice.
What we found was, yeah, when you spin, when you have a really, really tight wind, um, it ends up having so many spirals in the vortex, it gets kind of convoluted and it kind of tilts and turns and shifts.
Almost like space bending.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. Um, yeah,
Which
we
is
had
electric. I mean, the universe is electric, so I mean, it's easily understood that way.
yes. So yeah, we have another pendant that's actually we're out now. It's right there. And we have a friend of ours is actually who's very sensitive. Uh, she's giving a write up for us because she sees something completely different than what we've seen so far with it. But it also confirms what we've seen with this one. It's actually really neat. This one is the multi-dimensional. Um, let's see here. So the multi-dimensional has three different tensor rings in it. So it's the third eye, crown chakra, and star chakra. So that one basically just opens you up. It just
Mhm.
lets you go. And the stones in it are the equivalent to Archangel Michael. So you have the shielding, the calming, clearing, and heart healing. So you can actually do astral travel and multidimensional work and still be protected. Um, we had a young lady at Mount Shasta put it on, and she immediately went into a alternate reality or different timeline or a past life. We don't know for sure, but she was gone. She was right there, and she just started describing it. She was an amphibian. She had brown fur that was waterproof,
Yeah,
and she was on this coastline, and it was really cool.
you gotta be careful when you're dealing with sound.
Oh yeah, but
It's
yeah, she was.
untapped technology there.
Oh yeah, but she went off on a completely different, different lifetime with that pendant. So that one is actually interesting, and our friend is actually looking at it as just a slight touch of what she's been talking about is more of like a time stream
Hmm.
connector. So you can actually, it'll when you put this on and you want to connect to a different time stream or a different lifetime, it'll allow you to connect to the ones that are right for you at the time that you want to connect.
That's interesting. You can almost like want to go someplace, and with that, you can just like, hey, I want to go back in the
Yeah.
1920s. And whoop.
I have a feeling that some of these, the gifts that this will actually give you, I think it's actually determined on what frequency you are.
Mhm.
So if you're ready for it or not, it's one of those. I think it's one of those kind of pendants. It's very powerful on its own for just about everybody, but I think for some of the higher stuff it gets, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Interesting. I love it.
Let's see.
Where do we leave off at? As Simon has a question, if it the thing, yeah, no, I think what Simon you're talking about is the black goo that we can't talk about. Is that's what that movie was based on. This is something that the inner Earth uses all the time. It's an entity that controls the inner Earth. Which,
Ah,
you know what? Let me tell you something about this QFS, which is to find out is that the UMO have a similar deal on their planet. They have a central computer system that governs everything that they do, but you, you still do what you want to do, but you're governed and protected by their computer system. And this was in the papers back in the late 50s, well before the 70s when it came noticed. So the similarity, I mean, this has got to be common throughout the universe. You know, when you got developing planets like the Earth, right? And they get to a point where we're ready to kill ourselves and everybody else around us in the dimensions, right? So they put a stop to that. It's okay. Yeah, you guys have gotten too far too quickly. Well, we need to step in and spank your ass, and this is how we're going to do it now. But I, it's got to be common. I mean, we're not the only ones,
No.
But to know that the UMO already have this is just fascinating. And these were letters back in the late 50s. They talk about personal computers. Well, there wasn't a computer back in the late 50s here. We studied the ENIAC and the EDVAC. What the hell? But
Yep. Punch
and
cards.
it wasn't one guy's creation. Like, well, I'm just going to make this stuff up. Yeah, no, I find that very difficult to believe. Just a very bad disinformation campaign they had back then. That's all.
Yeah.
So hope that answers Simon's question, which is a great movie, by the way. I like the Kurt Russell one.
Cool. All right.
And that was with the blood, by the way, which is what we're kind of experiencing now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That we can't get into.
Yeah, we can't get into that either.
No.
There is a documentary about that though.
I've seen it. I have it in my archives.
Yep, me too. Interesting documentary.
Yep.
So, can the energy field be measured? Slim Sperling had friends and connections that were physicists. I have to go back in the book and find out which one it was. There was a laboratory in Germany, and there was a Lockheed Martin laboratory that was actually tested the tensor rings that he was utilizing at the time, which was the sacred and the lost cubit. The sacred cubit was resonant, found their field was measured at 144 megahertz, and the lost cubit was 177 megahertz, and they were measured. And the comment I really love to get my hands on the report was that this is the most powerful room temperature superconductor that they've ever tested. There's no energy in or out; it's just there. It just happens.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to find out if your tensor rings work. I know they work on the surface here. Would they work in space, or would they work on the inner Earth?
If you go through Nassim Harameyn's information and the way he describes everything, I think the Thrive movie he mentioned this. He goes, if you look at the universe is a torus generator. Everything is a torus. So if that is the case, and these pendants are torus generators, yep, I think they work just about everywhere.
That would make sense to me. Hopefully, we're not in the Dyson sphere.
Never know.
Never know. I always wondered that, because the sounds that we get reverbing back, the sound could have went out and hit the sphere and reverb back to us. Don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Does the pendant enhance other jewelry you have on? That I don't know.
Good question. Damn.
I don't know if they do or don't. I know the tensor rings amplify the crystals that are actually inside of its field. I don't know if it'll enhance the crystals. Let's say if you're wearing a bracelet with crystals on it. I don't know.
Will a pendant make you age more?
A pendant? No. That will not make you age more. It's actually going to protect you. If I understand the way that energies are working, the energies that we're being impacted by actually impact our DNA and the telomere length. So by protecting your energy field, I would say it would actually protect your telomeres, which actually reduce aging.
Mm-hmm.
But again, everything is energy, so DNA is energy. It's just a light. It's a light code.
How you maneuver it, and adjust it.
Do you know if there's any stones that can reduce enlarged chamber of the heart? I don't off the top of my head.
That's a physical thing, right? I don't know if they could adjust a physical thing.
Not necessarily a crystal. Slim Sperling was actually talking about the sacred cubit, and in his books, there's many reports of the sacred cubit actually healing the physical body. There was one report where they would heal a broken bone in an hour. I'm like, that was interesting. It's a report, so I don't know the truth of it, but that's in his book. The sacred cubit supposedly is that. It'll actually help heal the physical body. So I don't know if that can help you with that or not. It'd be worth a shot for sure. Okay, so Gabby, if we put a picture of someone under or above a pendant with our intentions to help and heal that person, will they actually help that person? Your intentions on the tool will definitely have an impact. Now, what you need to worry about there is impacting karma. The other individual, you have to have permission either from the individual or their higher selves, or both. You have to make sure that you're not impacting karma. You may, because if you do something and if the karma basically says no, it's not going to do anything for them. And if you force it, it could create negative karma for you. All right. Okay. If a galactic nation invited you to go visit their planet, would you?
Who, me?
Oh yeah. Oh, either one of us, I think. It's like, oh hell yeah.
Um, I always I would like to visit Umo, but I don't know if I would want to visit Umo because I don't know if I could like their society. They don't laugh. There's no music, no sense of humor that I know of. They're just like, stick in the muds, so they're just all intellectuals.
Well, that would be fun. Introduce them to the fun stuff, and bring it with you.
Oh, they would say, "Oh, you're weird. Get out of here. Go back where you came from."
I would say thank you very much, and I will after I have
Yeah,
my get my
great, nice
fill.
to be here.
As soon as the tour's end, as soon as the tour's over, I'll be going. And of course, oh yeah, the Star Nation was actually of the positive light, so we'll make
Mhm.
sure we put that in there. Yeah, Vivian. Yep, yep. Depend on the spiritual state of consciousness. Yep, yep. Actually Vivian and I both went through an energetic reset for. Um, Mine was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Uh, duh, 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 duh. And stones do talk and communicate. Yes, they do. Yep, that's right, Megan. They each have their own frequency, their own pulse, their own energy field. Yes, and thank you for all the love for Viv to get healthy. Much appreciated. Oh yes, yes, yes. Let me do go here. All right. Okay. Da-da-da.
Red Rose, yeah. David Wallace will definitely be coming back. We had an intense conversation after the last podcast, and um, he's definitely coming back. We got lots more to talk about.
Very cool. All right.
Well, here's a good question from Maya. Have you made those out of silver instead of copper?
For my pendants, yes, I can do it. I've been doing silver and copper. Silver is a special request. Just the cost of it's a lot higher.
That was a good question.
Yeah, the big pendant that I have was like 3.5, 4 ounces of silver in it. Da-da-da-da. Yes. Let's just see here. I'm gonna have to go to events. Yeah, Viv wants me to mention that we're doing our. Come on, waiting for it to load. Um, we have an event, Dimensional Bridge Consciousness in Person Retreat in January up in Sedona at the Sedonia Conscious Living Center. Information's on the website. Let's see. And we're doing, I can't wait for this. This is going to be fun. Um, the Hidden Secrets Revealed cruise in April.
Oh
That's
yeah,
going to be
that's yeah.
that's going to be fun. That's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that. Okay. Sometimes crystals are not where you left them. They reappear somewhere else. Yep, that's happened. They must have been needed in another frequency for a little bit, then rematerialized here. Okay. Okay. Let's see. The website is there. Right now, we're rebuilding my website. So, Energies of Service is redirecting to eos.yorkpress.com at the moment. Yeah, we had a web developer issue that tied Viv's and my websites together, so we couldn't separate them and created all kinds of headaches with all the pictures and stuff in the background. So, but yeah, the yep, Viv already posted it. Good, good, good.
She's on it.
Yep. Antarctica. Simon said Antarctica. Makes me think of H.P. Lovecraft story
Yeah, that
in
was
the Thing
actually a
film.
good movie.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think that's the other stuff we're not supposed to talk about,
Yes. You know,
and that's
careful
what
about that one.
the Falkland Wars was all about. People can research that.
Yes, I've actually heard about that one.
Yep.
They had to control it. All right. Yeah. So go back here. Maya, she was asking, made of copper and silver. Yes. The silver tends to be a little more powerful, and if you wanted to do gold, it would even be more powerful. It's just the metals themselves. Um, Copper is seems to be the best medium for affordability and
Functionality.
pliability for building.
Yeah.
Okay. There's multi-dimensional one available. Yes, they are. Email Viv or myself, and we'll get it up there. We just don't have the. I'm waiting for a good description to be written up so we can post it up on the site. But we have all of the imaging and posts and stuff like that to get it up on the site. We're just looking for the best description we can get. Because it's going to be a multi-tiered description. It's going to be different than the other ones. It's going to be dependent on where you are in your vibration as to what the pendant will be able to do for you. It's going to be an interesting way of actually putting it in there. So that's why it's taken a little longer than expected. Pendant go through? It did actually. We went to South Africa and back, and um, it didn't really cause a problem on the way out, but getting back into the country, we put them away just to make sure we could get into the country without having an issue, just in case somebody was getting wanted to be difficult. It's a non. I think it's because it's a non-ferrous material. Because usually your gold jewelry, silver jewelry won't be too much of an issue either. Yeah, yeah, Caroline. Yeah, Vivian's like said. Yeah, Carolina, put it in carry on. Yep, it'll go through the scanners, no problem. Okay, did Antarctica have a civilization before it came a frozen ice cape? Um, if you want to understand what Antarctica is and what was there, you might want to look up Suspicious Observer's YouTube channel. He talks about the flip flop our planet does every 12,000 years. And it basically goes 90 degrees off and then goes back to 90 degrees. So Antarctica, it's um, when our sun gets really energetic, it actually lubes up or loosens up the electromagnetic grip or the core of the planet has on the crust of the planet. So it becomes more fluid. And when that happens, the weight of all the ice on the ice caps go to the equator.
See, now I
Um,
disagree with that 100%.
he's got the scientific information on it. That's where, if you look at his stuff, it's really interesting.
Oh, I
And
know,
it's
but that
actually,
but that is just current. But all this stuff happened about 60 million years ago,
well, this happens every 12,000 years ago with the
right?
galactic current sheet.
With the galactic sheet, yeah. But how the continents got into the positions they are right now was 63 million years ago.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not saying that the current positions of the continents don't change other than the crust. That's the
No,
crust.
right.
Yeah.
And it always was when we were growing up that everything's moving, everything's moving. But if that's the case, then how come all the alignments at all the points in the world, line up with the sun and everything? So the continents are not
Yeah.
moving. You know.
No, actually, he actually covers that as well. It's actually um, the magnetic and the physical. Actually, it bounces back and forth. It goes back and forth every 12,000 years. There's actually core samples that show it.
Yes.
Um, so
Yes.
it's not a it's the planet just
Let's
it's
let
like the top
let's
falls
just say
over and
this
comes
that
back up.
that the Earth
Yeah.
was not in this position 63 million years ago. It was someplace else.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go there. Yeah. It was someplace
Anyway,
else.
it's
Yes.
yeah, it's interesting if you want to read to go through his what do you want he calls it his catastrophe cycle,
Hmm.
and he's actually got the
Based on where
documentation
the Earth is now. Right.
um, based on the current location of all of the continents now. But it's just basically it's like what he explains it as is the shell just shifts 90 degrees because of the weight,
Yep.
and then in 12,000 years it just shifts back because of the weight.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So that's what he talks about, and he talks about exactly the cause, when it happens, and all the other side effects to it, and the extinction level events, and all this other stuff. And he explains more information on what Graham Hancock talks about as an asteroid hitting 12,000 years ago. It's more of a chunk of the sun hitting us as a micronova than an asteroid
See, I
because that
disagree
happens
with
every
that too.
12,000. Yeah.
Yeah. No. 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 Project Brilliant Pebbles. Yeah. I got a thesis coming out with that. It's going to be
Oh,
like
cool.
another David Icke type crap thing that I'll probably get banned for, but it
That's all
makes
good.
perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. It explains about Mars and Venus and Mercury, and I'm like, God, why didn't anybody know about this before? But
Yeah,
yeah,
there's a lot of information out there that we're not privy to for sure.
no, because they figured it out back in the 80s, and then they stopped the program.
Yeah. Okay, Vivian, any experience on how pendants interact with receiving energy healing and imagine it would create a very clean container to receive? Would it amplify the experience? It depends on what pendant you're wearing. Um, let's see. I've had healers use these tools and basically say they can't get energy in or out with them. I've had others basically say that it just helps them protect their energy while they're doing it. So it depends on where you are and what you need, as far as the experience with the pendants and pendants and anklets. But yeah, it basically keeps your energy clean and it allows you to function daily in your own vibrational state instead of being impacted by others. Okay. Simon, look up Suspicious Observer on YouTube and go to his climate uh, catastrophe playlist, and you
I
just check it
mean,
out.
he broadcasts every day, right?
He does a daily space weather, so you actually
Yeah,
can tell.
Space Brother. Yeah.
Um, and he talks about the Schumann resonance variation based on our electromagnetic field, which is diminishing right now. Also, it all depends on what the galactic energy of the getting into the planet to change the resonance frequencies, and he talks about all this stuff. Um, and that's just on a daily thing. And he also covers the most recent or the ones he just found as far as uh, what was it? The latest papers released that talk about the stuff that he's actually referencing. And his book, it's like 200 pages or 300 pages book, and he has over 500 references in it to all these different papers and talking about all the different stuff when it comes to um, this, weather, how weather is actually directly impacted by the solar activity, how it is directly impacted by the electromagnetic field of the planet, how sunspots or CMEs to impact our energy, and it creates the weather patterns that you see. It's and it. He actually has a climate change playlist as well to talk about all of that information. If you want something that's not with the narrative, I'll just put it that way. Um, And yes, Monomo, I talked about the two events coming this January and April.
Hmm.
Um, it okay. So when I'm working with the crystals, um, do they get sad when they're broken down? Some will, some won't. When I'm working with the crystals that I have here, their purpose and their intention is for these pendants, so they're happy with what we're doing. When we uh, when we find crystals and stuff like that in shops, the bigger ones that I might want to use for it, we'll get a vibration that says no, I don't want to be broken down. Um, so there are stones that agree to go into a pendant like these to actually help facilitate, because what'll happen is the smaller pieces of that crystal will actually be more powerful for you just because of the nature of the tool itself, the pendant. So they're good with what happens with that. And some of them just don't want to be a part of that, and they want to stay whole in the size that they're at.
Does some stones help other stones?
Yes. Yes, and that's the whole thing with the anklets. I would have never have thought to put those five crystals into a configuration the way they are to create a energy shield for yourself. It's like, I
Hmm.
mean, tanzanite, morganite, lapis lazuli, tiger's eye, and black onyx. Would you have thought that those five crystals would create an energy shield?
Yeah, hell no, man. I don't know anything about
That's
that. So
that's the thing. Archangel Metatron came to me and said, "Hey, here you go. Put these five together, put it in tensor ink, cover it in copper mesh." And that's what we got. It's just like, holy
I
cow.
still got mine in, and I wear it to work, and it just calms everything down, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it does. It turns off the ambient noise
Hmm.
that you
Yeah.
can't necessarily hear or see, but it's the ambient noise of people's energy and their vibration.
Actually, you know what? There are times that I use it. I put it on my wrist, and then it helps me meditate
Yeah,
deeper.
yeah,
I mean, I just say boop right there.
absolutely.
John Pierce, Project Serpo, and the Roswell. Well, I know John Pierce has got this interest for Serpo. Um, I believe there was a connection to there, and I also know too that this Project Serpo continues to this day off the coast of Hawaii. There's a remote island called Johnson Island, and it's a research center, whatever you want to call it. It's isolated, but that's where a lot of the um, landings occur now, and a lot of transitions occur now. I've actually done a Google search on it, and I have seen some weird stuff there. So it's interesting um, to re to revisit that. I got all as much info as I possibly could muster from that, and I would have to think that was real. But that Roswell crash, there's a couple different ones that happened. So I mean, which one is it? The CR cube, which is another topic in itself, which we can get into later. That was a real thing. That a nice energy source there, and he we talk about that from time to time. So yeah, Mr. John, we need to explore that even further. But yeah,
Cool.
there is a connection.
Yeah. Viv and I were in Roswell. It was an interesting place. Definitely feel
Yeah,
the energy there. Yeah.
very nice. And I'll go there again someday. It's hot. God damn, it was hot.
It was raining like crazy when we were there.
Which is unusual, but I mean, ours was so hot. It's
Yeah.
like you walked out and it's like, damn.
Oh yeah. No, they had. We were talking to a friend of ours, Dennis, who lives there, and it was more rain than they've ever had in one particular like a shot like that, and it was flooding everywhere. The streets were all flooded because they're not used to having that kind of water.
Right. Yeah.
It was
It's
interesting.
it's 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 interesting because everybody comes out at night there. It's too hot during the day.
Yep. Sounds like Arizona.
Oh man, God, don't even start. I like my snow.
Yep. Okay.
Was a sports model saucer that Bob Lazar worked on a gift from Serpo? I don't believe so. That was another race.
Very cool. Cool.
What else we got?
I think we got everybody's questions. Did we miss anybody?
I don't think so. I think we got everything right.
I think so. All right.
See, that Bob Lazar one is his was a anti-gravity, and most of those are anti-magnetic. And when the space folds, and this is the Umo talking now. When the space folds, that's when they can get to where they want to go. But sometimes when they come out of that envelope, out of that mass inversion, they kind of lose control. And that's how we see these different crafts that are like, oh shit, oh my god, they can't gain control. But most of them are anti-magnetic, not anti-gravitic. Two different schools of thought. That's why they got to tilt, so they can adjust the magneticity of it, and then they can thrust by using um, mercury heated ion plasma and bismuth, and that's what causes lift.
Ah.
That's also in the Umo book too. So very good stuff.
Yeah, it is.
I do not know what race that was, John Pierce. There's so many different types of races out there. It's hard to, say, oh, was this one? There's so many different type of crafts, different types of entities that are, some of them are both 5D and 3D. Some of them are just 3D like us. And it's hard to say which one.
Okay. And
Oh, a good one about water. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So Jeff Ulrich. Okay. So you're not going to damage the copper or the crystals or the mesh. Um, The issue is eventually what'll happen is the copper will start to tarnish and turn different colors. You know, obviously, if it goes into like a water that's more of acidic, it'll actually start turning green. So you'll start degrading your copper that way. So I wouldn't actually get the anklets in water. As far as the pendants are concerned, the outside shell of the copper may end up starting to get a little tarnished. It's not a big deal. You can use a Scotch Brite pad and scuff that off, and it won't hurt it. Um, just keep the Scotch Brite pad on the copper only, not on the resin, because it'll scratch the resin up pretty good. Um, yeah, right now we have the anklets are newer version that actually have a coating over the actual copper mesh to actually keep it, excuse me, keep it protected for a longer.
Oh, yeah, see, mine was raw.
Yeah. So I finally found some protective material that we could put on there, and it protects the copper completely now. It's not 100% sealed up, so water will get in, but it'll actually protect the copper from actually any damage, direct scuffing or stuff like that.
Okay, now when I do mine, I take Neverdol and I clean it.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing to keep
You
it
can
from
use
tarnishing?
Neverdol. One of the funny things with copper is you can actually just use lemon juice.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, lemon juice will break it down to it's actually start turning more of a pinkish color. Um, and it just takes off all the oxidation off the top.
Okay.
And just rinse it off. Make sure you get it all the because it's just acidic. You'll clean that up good. Uh, t- 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 Gabby, I don't know. That would be more of a question for Viv. How do you get permission from your husband's higher self? Let's see. Viv wants to know if we have any special message for the end of 2022 and the 23. Let's see. I would say hopefully we get more and more of the evidence-based releases in the next couple months, and then from there, basically start clearing house, starting the like end of Q1 next year. At that point, we can people can start coming out as for who they really are, and the truth will start coming out. And
Yeah, I think that we need that the truth to come out so people can because right now they're too polarized on what's going on. But I think as soon as that gets taken up, then everybody will be joined together as one again.
yeah, I'm hoping that the mainstream media gets a little bit of a clearing there.
They need it.
They need it big time on all sides. Doesn't matter which channel you tune to.
Right. Agreed.
Da, 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 da.
Oh, Simon,
Thank you, Megan.
NASA's plasma drive. You know, that plasma drive is just heated ions, and they've had that for decades now.
Yeah.
So yeah. Actually, when you see the crafts that remember Travis Walton? Here you go. Travis Walton. When he
Yeah.
was looking at that craft that was like red glowing and looked like fire, whatever, that craft was dumping out excess plasma. Okay.
Uh,
Because when they generated too much plasma, they have to lighten their load more or less, right? So that's what he saw was, but they didn't know what it was. They thought that the force was on fire. And I talked to Travis intimately on this, and he thought it was on fire. So, but it was actually dumping plasma.
oh, very cool.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I can go on and on about that one.
Yeah, the NASA ion drives are extremely slow.
Hmm.
They'll get to the speed of light, but it'll take them forever to get there. It's just
Which
very
is why they
slow.
need the bending of the universe in order for it to travel.
Yeah.
Because the UMOS craft uses heated ion plasma
Yeah.
surrounded by mercury, spinning mercury.
Yeah.
So
Very
yeah.
cool. Um, Thank you, Kate. Your pendant is not tarnished at all. All the pendants are actually sealed with jeweler's sealer, so it'll actually keep it from tarnishing for as long as that the sealer stays. It won't last forever. but it does last a long, long time. Um, let's see. Praying for someone and doing the intention work. I'm not sure where the fine line of differentiation is on it. But I think when you're praying for somebody, it's working with their higher self. So if it's good for them, it's good for their. Yep. And Kate, yep. Lemon juice and baking soda.
Hey, have you ever tried to put an electrical charge to one of your pendants?
Not to a pendant. What I was with all my free time. I wanted to actually take one of the larger tensor rings, probably not really large one, probably a 10, 12-inch one, and put a bunch of coils around it
Mm-hmm.
and basically see if I could actually draw any energy off of it.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Just to see if there was any energy created coming off the tensor ring through a coil.
You know that CR cube that they had from Roswell is some sort of high powered crystal. I don't think it's a quartz, but it's a special. I don't think we even know what type of crystal it is, but it houses all types of energy in it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and when they would, I don't know exactly because that's all classified, but I know that they can draw from it.
Okay. Interesting, Megan. Thank you for sharing. Interesting. When we had a bolt from heaven here in South Africa, I saw a bright disc-like disc as the bolt came out, and then saw a shadow gray color craft shifting to and fro in the clouds. Very cool.
Yeah, it's probably coming out of their hyperspace, I guess you call it.
Yeah, all that energy dumped into the clouds. Yeah, very cool. All right.
I think that's it, right?
Yeah, I think that's about all we got for today.
Very cool. We always like these. Ask us anything. Here's another one from Lita. Is there any way to give yourself telepathic privacy? Hmm.
Good question.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that one.
Yeah, we'd have to actually understand telepathy first and
Telepath- Telepathic privacy.
telepathic.
Well, I think I know what she's talking about. Yeah, you can do that. The more you get into your what the Zetas call standing in your energy, you can develop a wall of sorts, and that will give you privacy from other telepathic messages coming to you. But that is a learned skill, and I don't know much more about that than just what the Zetas told Paul Hamden about that. So I think that's what
Ah,
she's referring to.
oh, very cool.
And that's something that's probably beyond us by at least a couple decades.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that will be about it for today. Do you have anything else you want to bring in, Jeff?
No, just I just keep doing what we're doing. We're getting close to the year end here, and it was great. It was a fantastic year. I'm sure we got some amazing guests coming next year. Expanding it a little bit slowly. Trying to get a little bit more technical, I think, too. I think people are ready for that. By the way that they're asking questions, I think they're ready for a little bit more in depth knowledge. So hopefully we can provide
Yeah,
that for them.
absolutely. Sounds
Hope I
like
don't
fun.
bore anybody, but yeah, you know,
You're snoring from the peanut gallery.
yeah. They're like, what the hell are you talking about now? Ah, damn, you know. So, But yeah, so we'll get with that, and we'll get a list together, and I know I got somebody ready right away, so we're going to have a fun time next year. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
so it was
I thank
good,
you for coming
Peter,
back.
to finally have you on there, because I always had all these questions about it. About it was always like a mysterious thing you did, and nobody knows about it. So
Oh, the tensor technology
right, what does
mysteries.
that mean? How did
Yep.
you know that?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
very cool.
Very cool.
So everybody, stay tuned, and we'll be reaching out. Have a great holiday and stay safe. Stand in your energy, meditate.
Absolutely. And thank you for showing up. Have a great day. Good weekend and happy holidays.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.